sure the label doesn't show.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
No.
Hi, I'm Kat.
I'm Jay.
And today we are interviewing the infamous and the amazing Mark Meer.
Hello, Internet.
You might know him as Commander Shepard. I guess that's probably what you're best known for, but you
Yes.
are a man of many talents.
Yeah,
so I'm reading.
and many voices.
Many voices.
Even within Mass Effect, I do a bunch of other characters.
Including an entire race.
I do several races. I do all of the Hanar, including Blasto, the Hanar Spectre, and anytime you run into a Vorcha, it's also me.
Tim Dayton asks, what is his favorite piece of dialogue over the 3 Mass Effect games?
Well, I've been asked this question many times before, and I always respond with, I should go. Because that's a piece of dialogue that Jennifer Hale and I said the most. We said a lot. They could have just paid us to say it once and then reused it, but they didn't. They just had us say it every single time. Saying I should go probably paid a few months of mortgage. I'm gonna cut your balls off and sell them to a Krogan. that was all that I did.
Johnny Powell.
Yes.
He asks,
Hello, Johnny.
Dear Mark, why are you so goddamn fabulous?
It's the only way I know how to be, John.
Here's a good question. Is this the same guy who did the voice for Deus Ex?
No, that's Elias. That's Elias.
Elias.
He's a different fellow.
Stu would like to know, what is your actual, I don't know why actual's in caps here, but actual favorite store in the Citadel?
My actual favorite store. Well, my actual favorite store on the Citadel is whatever store I happen to be in at the time that will give me a discount.
In real life, you get discounts too.
I did get
You're a good
discounts.
man.
Yes,
Like,
I like doing that, bringing it over in real life and getting discounts and stores.
You go in the store, do you know who I am?
So you do voices, you act, you also improv. Do you have a favorite medium in which to work in?
Well, I'd say that improv is probably my focus, like live theatrical improv, and that's what I do the most. Of course, voice acting is great because, as I've said before, in voice acting you don't have to shave or wear pants.
We were talking earlier about how you basically grew up on Kids in the Hall.
Yes, SCTV before that.
SCTV
Monty Python.
Yeah, all of that stuff, and then a lot of it's Canadian, and a lot of our viewers are actually from the UK and from the States, and I don't think a lot of them have seen Kids in the Hall.
Really?
Yeah, which is
You're missing
nice.
out, and you should check out Kids in the Hall.
You should check out Kids in the Hall.
You can buy that.
I was always a huge fan of sketch comedy, as I mentioned. SCTV was very influential in my formative years. Kids in the Hall was on, late when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
But it was still very, very influential, and I loved it. I loved the show. But I went to school in a small town that you couldn't even take drama in high school. Like, I had to take art. I had to take art by correspondence. So I'd never, unlike many people, I'd never been exposed to improv in high school, and I didn't discover it until later when I moved to a larger center, Edmonton. I basically started doing improv and just loved it, and that's what brought me into acting.
A lot of people wanted to know how you felt about the fan reaction towards the Mass Effect 3
original ending.
The
original
ending, yes.
hoopla and the whole big deal that went on with that.
Well, I've used this one before, but I think I can say without fear of correction that the ending of Mass Effect 3 was controversial. Just to elaborate a little further, basically, when it came out, I didn't have a problem with the endings. Like, people have asked me, well, weren't you outraged at the endings? And I wasn't, because I guess I had some inside information. I knew why things happened the way they did. A lot of people were asking for clarity after Mass Effect 3. I'm thinking particularly of why did Joker leave? Why Joker would never do that. And in the extended cut, of course, you see the reasons behind that. And I guess I was sort of privy to them, but they hadn't been maybe spelled out clearly enough. And that's one of the things that the extended cut addressed. Yeah, I wasn't upset with the endings at all. That said, I think I was mentioning to you earlier, I really enjoy the new Control ending in the EC.
A lot of voice actors that I know and I've talked to before, they get into it to a certain degree, but you're on a whole different level. Like you said earlier that you were more of you would have played Mass Effect regardless if you're in it or not. But
Yes.
not only that, just from us talking, you have a huge background in all sorts of geeky things.
Yes, in geekery.
How did you get into that? Like, what was the first thing that you were exposed to that you were like, oh, I'm in this scene now?
Oh, I think I've always been a nerd. Because
Did you grow up watching sci-fi?
Oh,
like
certainly.
Next Generation
Yes,
and all
collecting
that
comic
goodness?
books. Comic book. The very first thing that I ever remember reading aloud was a Hostess Fruit Pies commercial from the back of a comic. I think it was Fruit Pies or Twinkies. It's like where the Hulk was fighting the Wendigo over, delicious snack. Huge into Star Wars, obviously, growing up as a kid, video games, Dungeons and Dragons, a lot of Dungeons and Dragons. And in fact, I'll even credit Dungeons and Dragons before improv with getting me into acting.
When did it transition to you getting paid to do it?
You're an actor, and that's your only job.
Yeah.
You audition for a lot of things, and so my first job with Bioware was just another audition. Of course, I was like really excited about it and really wanted to get it because it was for the second Baldur's Gate game, and I was a huge D&D fan, and I knew about the Forgotten Realms and that sort of thing. But the very first gig I did for them was one line at the end of Baldur's Gate 2. So, and in the final cutscene. So you had to beat the game, and then you would
They
see
can hear your
me
voice.
plotting as an evil cleric with some other evil clerics about, and then wait till the sequel. Yeah. And my line was, "There is no need for concern. The fate of this fool is sealed." Yeah. And actually, the lower half of my face is in the game as well, because because they're all wearing hoods. So they filmed us, and so you see this much of me. There is no reason to be concerned. The fate of this fool has been sealed.
But can we be so sure?
The second game that I worked on for Bioware was Baldur's Gate Throne of Baal, where I got to play Cyric, the god of murder, and so there was, he had a bit of an accent. That really excited me because, again, I was a D&D player, and Cyric was a character that I knew about, like a character that I'd read novels about in the Forgotten Realms. And then Bioware just kept hiring me back for, I was on pretty much all of their subsequent games. Did demo work on the original Knights of the Old Republic.
You went through all of these games, and when was the moment that you realized, like, okay, BioWare's working on something? Did they tell you at the time when maybe they were interested in you, or did you say, I would like to audition for this role?
Or are you talking for Mass Effect?
Yeah, when Mass Effect came along, did they tell you, hey, this is going to be 3 games and this is going to be a while? Or did they just say, we need you for,
It was basically, I was working on the games before I got cast as Commander Shepard. In the very early stages of the game, like before any other voice work had been done, I was brought in when they were still like doing conceptual art and things like that, and I was hired to basically determine how the various alien races would sound, like to lay down tracks for actors who'd be playing aliens. And
that's
be like,
cool. I see.
This is what a typical Krogan sounds like. This is what a typical Solarian sounds like. This is a Bolus.
So
So I'm the reason why the Bolus do the thing before they speak.
That's nuts. So
why the Solarians have that sort of clipped cadence, and some stuff is obvious. Like the Krogan are going to have deep guttural voices.
Yeah.
Obviously.
So how does that exactly happen? They give you the images, and you look at them for a while and go, okay, I think it would be like this, and then you lay it down.
Basically,
and give it to them, and
then
go, okay.
came in with a presentation. They gave me all the concept art. It was like eyes only, lots of non-disclosure stuff. And so, I took those and, found out a little bit about their cultures as well and things like that. And not everything that I suggested made it in. Like, I had suggested, because of their facial structure and the way their mouths are put together, that Turians should have sort of like a clicking sound at the ends of words. And it was ultimately decided, that might be a little too distracting because, Garrus is in it a lot. They asked me, they said, listen, we would like you to audition for the role for the lead.
Yeah.
And I didn't think anything of it at the time because I was just like, well, very well. I'll audition for you, sir. But we both know that I'll end up doing Monsters and Aliens, and some guy from LA will end up being cast as the lead. So, but it wasn't like bitter or anything. It was very well, sure. Hey, what a great opportunity. And so I did it and didn't think anything of it until they called me back for a callback. I was like, oh, well, this is kind of flattering to get to do another callback. Then they called me back for another callback, and then I heard it was like down to, it had been whittled down to a short list that I was on. And then I was informed that I got the part, so I was thrilled.
So when you got the call, what did you do?
It was just, I think I said something along the lines of, holy crap. And, so I didn't necessarily know that it was going to be a trilogy. I know that there was the potential for that.
Yeah.
And I didn't necessarily know this is going to be a hit game. I knew it would be a good game because I'd worked on a lot of BioWare's games before. I'd played most of BioWare's games to that point, and so I knew they were a good company, they were a good studio, and they put out good stuff. And quality can often lead to success, so I was pretty sure it was like, this will be a successful game. I did not expect it to become so successful and like so embraced by the fans. Mass Effect fans, pound for pound, I'd put them up against almost any other fandom in terms of dedication. I don't want to start pissing contest about who's got the most dedicated fans or anything, because I'll get brown coats.
Call of Duty's gonna be like,
yes, exactly.
No, but I'll agree with you on that. Because I talk to a lot of our fans, and when they talk about Mass Effect, it's very serious. It's like, and they love it.
I'd say the only fan base I've seen that's like more, dedicated, well, I'll say rabid in their dedication, not in a negative way, but like just super dedicated, would be like the browncoats, like Firefly and Serenity fans.
Yeah, they're nuts.
Yeah,
Like,
I like them. They're good.
No, but they're good. But when they was like Nathan Fillion's going to be in the Uncharted film series possibility, the fans almost like got him cast in that role almost.
Yes.
You know, they pushed him in there, and I wonder what happened with that. I don't know if he.
And I've got to see some of that.
Wait a minute, you know him.
I do know, yes. So I'm friends with Nathan, and he's actually alumni of Rapid Fire Theatre, my improv company in Edmonton. Nathan, as a matter of fact, put me on my very first second half theatre sports team.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so one of the greatest thrills in my life was going to a con and seeing someone dressed up as Commander Shepard. Like the first time that somebody walked by in full N7 armor, I was just, oh my god, that's it's topped maybe by holding an action figure of me in my hand, which I got to do because now they have several.
You play with yourself much?
I leave me on the shelf.
At one point in time after you were done the first one, they were like, hey, guess what? Part 2's coming.
Yeah, that was,
did they announce to you, part 2 and 3?
They were so, as I said, I knew there was the potential for it to be a trilogy, and then I sort of got the word. It's like, yeah, it's looking pretty good to be a trilogy.
Yeah, when it sells like 8 million copies and like.
It did well.
Have they contacted you yet for anything else? Because a lot of people want to know that.
Oh,
are you going to be in part 4 is what they want to know.
Well, now I think, I'm not breaking any NDAs by saying this, but I think Bioware has made clear that 3 is considered to be the close of Shepard's story. And I mean, you know as much as I do in that arena. I'm fairly confident that I'll get to a little more work on future Mass Effects because, if you want to have Vorcha or Hanar in it, call this guy. And then just like Mercs and things like that. A couple of Quarians. I did Praza, who in ME2 it's Tally's loyalty mission. Well, I think there will definitely be
a Mass Effect
4 because let's face it, they've created such a fully realized, rich fictional universe that it would be crazy not to revisit it in some way.
And also the huge fan base.
Well, there's a huge fan base, but not only this, the potential for films. And cartoons and all that stuff is like it's
great sci-fi.
It's still huge. My personal idea would be a prequel. Show us where he came from.
You'll get no arguments from me.
Like, I know. Yeah,
of course I will. I'd call my bank and say, I don't know.
Show me the Red Sand short film you did.
Yes, that was a project I did with the students of the University of Advancing Technology in Arizona. And they essentially contacted me through my agent and sent me a script. But I enjoyed the script and I thought it would be good. And of course it was in the cause of education. So I went down and those kids did a great job. Their instructor, Paul Denegris, he was the one who contacted me initially. Caleb Evans is the writer and director. He did a fantastic job, and the entire team did, really. Because you watch that movie, and everything that you see besides the people and what they're carrying was built by the students from the ground up. And they didn't use any assets from the game, either. They created everything from scratch.
The music blew me away.
Yeah, that was done, I believe the guy who did that is 18 years old. He's from Italy, and...
He's got a career.
Amazing.
So if you haven't seen that, link in the underbar to that actual film. I think it's like 13 minutes or 15 minutes long.
Yeah, about 14.
And it's actually really cool to watch that before you start playing the game. So if you've never played it, you should watch that first.
Oh, sure.
It kind of tells you a little bit of what you're about to get into.
Yeah, it essentially deals with humanity's discovery of the Prothean technology on Mars. And it's set 40 years before the first game. So I don't play Shepard in it. I actually play Colonel John Grissom, who's a character from the novels.
So if you couldn't pick any of the ones that you voiced in, what would be your favorite video game?
There's a lot. There would be a long
top
list.
Of your head.
Off the top of my head, definitely the Batman Arkham Asylum and Arkham City games, Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, Red Dead Redemption, in particular Undead Nightmare, the zombie expansion. In fact, I think I might have enjoyed that even more than, if possible, even more than the original. Skyrim. I've wasted hours of my life.
Do you have multiple characters?
Yes, I have multiple characters.
Luke Morgan from Twitter asks, what was it like meeting Martin Sheen?
Pretty amazing. It was pretty cool. I got to meet him in Los Angeles. Actually, I happened to be there, and I did some of my sessions there, and I got to go in to the studio when Mr. Sheen was doing his. And it was thrilling, of course. It was thrilling to get to meet Martin Sheen. He's the greatest fictional president in history.
Yeah.
This was before he'd shot Spider-Man. And so that sort of came up in conversation.
Nice.
But he's clearly not a comic book reader, because he did say, it's like, well, they told me they wanted me for Uncle Ben, and I thought that was the rice guy. And
Grant Wilson asks, besides Shepard, who's your favorite character in the whole ME series?
Hackett and Anderson are definitely up there. In terms of companion characters, when I was playing them, I tended very much to pick the least human characters. So my Renegade, for example, was really good friends with Rex. And so even though that was my Renegade, like, he always backed the Krogan 100%. So even if it was like not necessarily the Renegade path, it would always just be, no, Rex is my buddy, gotta back the Krogan.
Here's actually a good question from Matthew Osborne on Facebook. He wants to know if you had any methods for spending hours in the booth while recording the ton of dialogue that you did over the series.
Right. Well, I should mention that we never did more than 4 hours at a stretch. That's because they don't want your voice to sound different. It might not sound terrible or anything, but it will sound, if you go longer than that, your voice will tend to sound different at the beginning of the session than at the end. Drinking lots of liquid, of course, keeping yourself hydrated. You'd probably, hot water actually is the best thing. Jennifer Hale actually swears by this giant thermos that she has that she keeps at the
So like
LA
a lucky
studio.
thermos?
It's her. I don't know.
Superstitious thermos?
Well, I don't know. I got to use it when I
Oh.
recorded. Yes.
And do you have
I
any-
didn't drink directly from it or anything. No, I had a cup. I myself used lemon ginger tea. That's quite good. I would think that Shepard has maybe the most amount of dialogue of any video game character to this point.
Yeah,
Probably.
I mean, it's
Probably.
it's ridiculous. So while recording Mass Effect 3, you've probably been doing it for 5 years at that point, and you're reading the script. Did you ever look down and go, I don't know if Shepard would say it this way? Did you ever, was there a
This doesn't seem quite
was
like
there
my
ever a moment
character.
when you were like,
Well, one tries not to be a difficult actor when working with one.
Because the writers are being like,
Oh, basically what I'm asking is, was there a collaborative thing where they said, okay, well maybe, you're...
Well, no, because in this case, particularly in the case of Commander Shepard, there's nothing, I can't really come forward and say, this is the definitive Commander Shepard, because everyone's Commander Shepard is going to be different. Commander Shepard is written on a spectrum where your Commander Shepard could be anything from a completely selfless, noble hero who's an inch away from a saint to an utterly ruthless bastard who would shoot his own mother in the face if he thought it would, get the objective achieved. So the secret was finding the core of Commander Shepard. Like, what is something about Commander Shepard that never changes from Renegade to Paragon? That he or she is military, like an officer who's used to giving orders under fire, and who ultimately, because whether you're Paragon or Renegade, you're ultimately still saving the galaxy. You don't have the option in the game that's like, screw it.
Out with some
Let
hot
them
chick
die.
and being
Yeah,
like,
just
bye.
like, something? I'm just going to drink till the world ends.
Right, yeah.
I'm just gonna go take
Where's
Miranda
Meredith?
back to my room and...
Yes.
Favorite movie?
Jaws.
Favorite color?
Black.
Pizza or pasta?
Pizza.
Pie or ice cream?
Pie.
Zombies or vampires?
Zombies.
Space or deep sea?
Space.
That was a decent one. I'm smart. Alien or...
Demon? Demon.
The film Alien or 2001 Space Odyssey?
2001.
Oh.
Favorite Bond film?
In some ways, Casino Royale.
Favorite horror movie icon?
I'm a Freddy Krueger man, I would have to say.
So, there was another really cool thing you showed me.
Caution may contain nuts.
And these are actually skits that you wrote, like full-on wrote, and acted in. And I was so impressed by them. I think that everyone really needs to go see these things.
Oh, thank you.
The one that I liked the most was I think it was a very big evil character. What was his name?
Oh yes, that's one of my characters, Dr. Von Chaos.
Yeah.
Who is a very
Von Chaos.
he's a very thinly veiled Dr. Doom.
It surprised me, truthfully.
good.
It was funnier and funnier, and then the ending's hilarious. And then the other one, which was awesome, was almost like a little series that you did, and you kind of play different characters throughout it, but there's also a couple other characters, about 4 of them, that go through this series of 3 videos.
Yes.
And it was almost like Lord of the Rings meets Dungeons and Dragons meets Skyrim. Did you come up with that whole idea?
That was basically, again, another series of sketches from Caution May Contain Nuts, which I should mention did air on APTN here in Canada.
It was on TV.
It was on TV. It was on the television. Yes. And now on the internet so that you can watch. And it was basically, it started off with one sketch called Dungeons and Dragons, which I believe there'll be a link to it below. And that turned out to be a very popular sketch, so we decided in the next season of the show ran for like 3 seasons on APTN. So when we did the 3rd season, we decided to revisit those characters in a variety of settings. So I think it's not just the ones that you saw; those are ones I wrote. But there's a few other ones as well. There's the one called The Halfling's Leaf, one called Riddles 3, and so it's, these Dungeons and Dragons, Lord of the Rings type characters going on further comedic adventures. I should mention that Mosaic Entertainment, which was the production company that produced Caution, I'm working on a new show with them, which is currently airing on Super Channel.
Nice.
It's called Tiny Plastic Men, and it's sort of a sitcom, sketch comedy hybrid. So we've got like a main plot line which deals with 3 friends who work as prototype testers at a struggling toy company. Embedded within the sitcom plot are sketches. We've got some great animation in there. A guy named Riley Beach who has a website called spicybackpain.com and has some fantastic cartoons, and he's done some really great ones exclusively for the show. And so it is exclusive to Super Channel right now currently. We do have a website, tinyplasticmen.ca. And you can actually follow the tweets of my character from the show, October, at OctoberTPM on Twitter. And the other characters from the show tweet as well.
Another cool thing is you're on Twitter. So if you want to
not just as a pretend person, but also as the real me.
That's how I stalk you.
Yes, and you can stalk me too at Mark_Meer. I wanted just at Mark Meer, but some kid in Holland took that, and his name's Mark Vandermeer, so I don't know where he gets off.
Yeah, do you have a website?
I have several websites. Nutsonline.tv, which is the Caution May Contain Nuts website. RapidFireTheater.com. Theater, of course, spelt the Canadian way. And that is the website for Rapid Fire Theater, which is a company I do a lot of improv work with.
So thank you so much for coming on the show.
No, sir.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
And lady, thank you.
Thank
you.
And, Mike, who's on the show with us, is kind of sad.
So sad that he couldn't be
He
here.
couldn't
Yeah, I
come
thought
here.
it was 3 KB. What's
I
going
know.
This is
You were
2
third
K-
today.
Oh, I guess
So
I'm 3 today.
I had this idea. He's a huge fan of yours.
Oh, yes.
He talks about you all the time. Well, I don't want to get into it too much, but
Okay.
I thought, have you ever been in the bedroom of a super fan?
Not willingly and not to date.
Right this way.
No. Well.
So yeah, this is his room.
Uh-huh.
It's not super clean.
No, it's fine. Just,
Here's the poster that when Elias Defexus was here,
Right.
he
I thought you said Mike was a big Mass Effect fan.
well, he is.
This will probably look better here, I think. Sorry, Elias. Yeah, that'll probably be better. So, this is what it's like to lie in a Mass Effect fan's bed.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Sorry about the smell.
That's all right.
Over here would be where he basically played all the Mass Effect games.
This is
So I don't. Yeah,
no, interesting.
it's kind of weird.
Hmm.
It's jewelry there. I don't know if it's his or not.
To each his own.
This is great, Mark. I'm a huge fan. Thank you so much.
No problem. So, Mike, you wanted to say reach for the stars?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, but I never actually say that in any of the games.
I've never played any of the Mass Effect games.
As you go.
I'm sorry, Mark.